Hello.
Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Living with a chronic long-term illness such as sickle cell anemia affects a person both physically and mentally. Being a hidden disability, it is often hard for people to understand the impact of sickle cell, not just on the person, but also on the family unit.
Sickle cell is an inherited disorder that affects haemoglobin, and there's this very small change in the gene, just one protein.
Most people's blood cells are round. They're shaped a bit like a donut. They travel normally through the tubes that carry our blood really easily. But some of my blood cells are shaped differently. They're shaped a bit like bananas, like this. Which means that sometimes they get stuck and stop the blood flowing around that part of my body. When they get stuck, it's called a crisis. I know when I'm having a crisis because it hurts.
It feels like you get like a constant heartbeat of pain shooting through your body like that, just throbbing.
Roadworks, like drill. So it's like that in one area, and then they'll leave that area and come to another area. That's what you said. Yeah, so it's that kind of ache. But I would still describe it as a stabbing, shooting pain.
Just feels like a brick has literally been thrown at you.
The Sickle Cell Society was established by a group of healthcare professionals, patients and carers who were concerned about the lack of awareness, understanding and treatment for those living with sickle cell.
There are a minimum of 15,000 people, that's children and adults, living with sickle cell in the UK. And I say minimum because there are a number of people, for reasons of Big Brother or questions about their leave of stay, that are not that keen to necessarily be on databases, give information. So we as a society believe the numbers are higher. The number of carriers is in the range of about 380, so nearly 400,000 to 500,000 carriers in this country. 1 in every 300,000 white UK births is a child who carries the sickle cell gene. So our position as a society, and it's important for us to try and get the message out that sickle cell affects everybody, and it's not just black people.
Sickle cell gene is not linked to skin colour, okay, from an inheritance point of view. So eventually I think with increased migration and like blending of nations, that you're not going to be able to say it's this race or that race that has sickle cell.
There is definitely surprise there. It's like, well, mate, you're too light. Not that I'm the lightest person in the world. I mean, exactly, you look at me, not exactly what you call a white man, am I? Do you know what I mean? But being Greek Cypriot and not Afro-Caribbean or something like that, it's a bit of a surprise to them.
Were you tested for sickle cell?
I was tested for sickle cell when I had my daughter, yeah.
Why?
Because I had my daughter at King's, or London generally is a high prevalence area of sickle cell, and so all pregnant ladies are automatically screened.
The play specialists that are a really big part of our service, just in general when the children come for blood transfusions, blood tests, scary procedures, the play specialists are there and they're a really integral part of the nursing care. And then for children that are not always coping very well, whether they're struggling at school or they are having their own worries, we have the family, and maybe family as a unit are struggling, we have family therapists. And then for children that need cognitive assessment, we have the psychotherapists. So all of these services are there for everybody.
They do?
My name is Gabriel too. Come on, try your nose.
5-year-old Gabriel Bocci lives with sickle cell. Being a normal young boy, he loves playing football. However, after just 5 minutes of playing with his mum, the limitations of sickle cell are evident when this happens.
That's sickle cell right there.
A call from the nursery and they said, okay, Gabriel is in a really bad way. He is, we can't console him. He's crying, he's in pain. We've given him pain relief. We've tried to massage him, which actually they're not even meant to do, but they just wanted to do anything to try and comfort him. And when I picked him up, I literally, at one point, I couldn't even drive anymore because he was not able to sit in the car. He was in so much agony, and at that point I wondered whether or not I would be able to phone an ambulance to come and get us because I couldn't drive. And I drove down to the hospital, parked up, and it was confirmed when we got their tests and so on that his hemoglobin was really low. He was having a serious crisis, and that escalated very quickly. He got a chest crisis. He was, barely conscious for a number of days. He had an oxygen mask to help him breathe. It really went from 0 to 100 very quickly, and it was really scary, and it was really sad to see because he's such an active, happy, cute little boy. All of a sudden he was, it looked as if he was just struggling to breathe, and it remained that way for a few days. He had a blood transfusion, he had a blood exchange, and then sort of a day or so after all of that happened, that's when we started to see an improvement. But prior to that, he was, not eating, he was just confined to his bed. He was barely conscious, to be honest. And at that point as well, he was taking morphine, codeine, paracetamol, ibuprofen, and nothing was, he was still in pain.
I end up taking, if my pain's really bad, dihydrocodeine, and if it's like just general pain I get, I take paracetamol and ibuprofen.
Hydroxyurea, penicillin, folic acid, calpol-nurofen, dihydrocodeine.
The impact on parents is significant, particularly if the child is ill, and siblings as well. So it has a wider impact.
It's really, really hard to sort of try and comfort someone, and they just want your comfort, they want a hug, they want your love, and you just want to sort of hug them and take all of that away, but you can't.
I just feel like I wish I could take it away from him, but I can't.
Yeah.
So all I can do is just be there to try and support him and keep him comfortable, and hope that pain relief will eventually take hold.
You're going through the torture because you're helpless. You can't help them. You wish, if only it's possible just to swap places with them, just to give them at least some respite, you understand? And then you take their place, take the pain, but then you can't. And sometimes even looking at them going through that pain is hard. You look away because you just don't want to see the pain.
I think hospitalization in general has a negative effect. Because as you can imagine, if somebody unfortunately has a lot of even pain or complications and has to spend a lot of time in hospital, when you're sick and you're in hospital, it's not great. You kind of have emotional problems. Sometimes people are actually low in mood, are anxious.
Take one particular year, and you think, I was actually in hospital more than I was out of hospital. And I had a few of those, and those are just the hospital admissions. Forget the ITU visits. God knows how many ITU visits I've had.
New Year's, Christmas,
Easter,
birthdays, Easter,
summer holidays.
I swear, I feel like I spent 5 New Years in hospital. My lifetime, I remember, I've got all the videos on my Dropbox.
I react to the pain first rather than going out and socialising. She was socialising, then going through the pain. So when she's going through the pain, shut up. When she goes through the pain, I look at her in the hospital and I'm just like, so what brought you here then?
Am I not allowed to actually live my life?
Sometimes no.
Someone with sickle cell might not have to come into hospital for 2-3 years, and then suddenly they're in hospital, every 3 weeks for like 3 months, and that can be really disruptive, to their life and job. And then, after you've been in hospital for a while, you sort of lose a bit of confidence. If they're coming into hospital, they need to be they're in hospital for a reason. They're not just coming in for laughs. And that's because normally they need those strong painkillers, otherwise they'd be staying at home taking their routine painkillers in their own environment.
I go to hospital quite often, about 2 years ago, but I don't go to hospital as much now
Could you guess how many times that you've had to stay in hospital so far?
Around maybe not 20, but around 14 and about 18, I'd say.
I do go to hospital a lot, so I'm kind of getting more used to actually just being there, and like if I'm in a lot of pain, staying there. I'm always fine with being in hospital because I know that in the end I will end up back at home.
Sickle cell disease has affected school drastically. Start off with Tyrell, who is really not in a very good place at school at the moment, and he's had a lot of time off school in the last year alone, so to the point where his attendance is down to probably 50%.
And is a lot of that obviously because of...
Yeah, a lot of that is because of him being ill, but also it is, personally for me, a bit of the school not actually fulfilling their duty of care and actually taking a little bit more time to understand exactly what the illness is about and how to cope with it.
I'm sad to not see all my friends and everything, but school's not like the happiest environment that I want to be spending time in, especially if I'm sick, because a lot of the time when I'm sick and I do go into school, I kind of sit there with my head on the desk and I'm not learning anything. So I don't see the reason why I'd go into school to have my head on the desk rather than when I can be at home taking medicine.
Secondary and primary was so hard. Let's go with primary. Primary school, I missed out on like obviously all the little trips that you had to go on because I was too sick to walk, or I was too sick, I was in hospital.
Or the trip can bring on a crisis.
Yeah.
That's what our parents were most worried about. You will sickle from this.
And you know everyone has to do swimming when they're, so I couldn't always do swimming because the water was icy cold, and it's just like, well, I'm missing out on everything that the youth are supposed to do. Secondary school was okay in year 7. Year 8 I had operations, so I missed out of most of year 8. Year 9 was okay, but then obviously when GCSEs and things came, that was so much harder. I didn't really do GCSEs because I was in and out of hospital all the time. Or if I was doing the GCSEs, obviously I wasn't able to concentrate because I was so sick. So secondary school was hard as well.
A lot of my patients do work, and I think it's important to say that people are working, and holding down good jobs, even with their sickle cell. But it's harder for them than someone who's well.
I work, and I also have 3 part-time jobs.
How does sickle cell impact on your work?
Yeah, it kind of affects me in terms of when it comes to like standing for long periods of time. So let's say during a match day or whatever, I could be standing anywhere between 1 to 2 hours, or even 3 to 4 hours without a break. So that does play a toll in it. And sometimes, if let's say it was 2 years ago, I wouldn't be able to stand up for 4 hours straight without a break. So
the amount of employers that I had trouble with in the past. I mean, I was a draftsman. I used to do like construction, things like that. So I used to detail structures, and unfortunately from that I ended up going to whatever I could take. I ended up going to agencies. I ended up from job to job to job to job, always having trouble. It's because they didn't understand. They'd see you well one day, and then all of a sudden they hear that you're in hospital. And I even had comments like, "Oh, I wish we could take time off like that." It's difficult, very difficult, because people don't understand. Especially when they see the outside of you and they think you look okay. There's nothing wrong with you. What could possibly be wrong with you?
Sickle cell's part of the person, just as they've got brown eyes, dark hair. And if the other half isn't willing to accept that, then they're not worth their time.
Because of the sickle cell, I wasn't able to have kids.
And what have relationships been like? Have they been difficult for you?
Do Do you know what? It's funny because when I was younger, I didn't realise they were difficult because I used to go from one relationship to another to another to another. I'd never even thought about it. Yeah. It's only as I started getting older that I started realising it was actually making a difference. It was affecting them, and the worst, especially serious relationships. When I had serious relationships. Seeing the fear in people's eyes every time you're in hospital when you're rolling around in pain, and they just feel so useless that they can't do anything to help you. And I had one girlfriend who used to have nightmares. She used to have nightmares of me in a coffin all the bloody time. That's not right. But it's how it affects people psychologically. When you've got someone you love rolling around in agony and you can't do anything about it. And I don't ever want to see that fear in anyone's eyes again. It was just a horrible experience.
I did work for the post office for 17 years and I absolutely loved my job. In the last 3 years that I was at work, it was an absolute nightmare, and it was really difficult to manage both the kids and be at work, and I only worked part-time. At one time I went to work, so I dropped the kids off to school and I walked to work. I got to work, I got my till out on the desk and the phone rang, and it was the school saying, come and pick up one of your children. And I was just like, I can't believe this, I haven't even started yet, and I got to leave, and I was really worried because I thought, my boss is not going to like this. And he didn't, so it did get in the way a lot. It got in the way a lot to the point where at one point, I thought I was going to lose my job. He was trying to get me sacked because my kids were ill.
There's a lot of attention with let's say the person with sickle cell, the child with sickle cell, and the siblings lose out. And so that can affect them emotionally.
When they get really sick and stuff and they are admitted to hospital, that does kind of affect sometimes it can affect my daily routine and sort of my plans, especially if mum needs help with kind of looking after them, or if she has to stay in hospital. This has happened quite a few times before. If she's in hospital with one of the boys and I have to go to work or something, or I have plans or meet friends or whatever, I have to kind of adjust that if I'm at home with the other one. On a more emotional level, it affects me, I would say, quite negatively, because obviously I don't like to see them in pain. They are my younger siblings, and seeing them when they're struggling to move and struggling to walk around and just struggling to do everyday things that they usually are, or when you see kind of the huge change in their kind of everyday personality when they are having a crisis is quite hard.
So I think some of the siblings worry that they've got a brother or sister that is poorly, and they like to know that they are okay. I think they're worried about their brother or sister.
Have you been to visit your sisters in hospital when they've been sick? Yeah. And what are they like when they're sick?
In pain, crying, even moaning about being in hospital.
And when they are sick, do you guys look after them a lot?
Yes, definitely.
What do you do?
I'll go up to them every 5 minutes. Are you okay? Do you need anything?
Do you guys worry about your sisters when they're sick?
Yeah.
Why do you worry?
Well, anything can happen. Anything.
Because I might get scared and they might die or something.
Words I just don't want to say.
But do you two think that you have a special bond because you both have sickle cell and you understand what you're going through?
She thinks we have a special bond. Because she says it all the time. But I don't. I'm trying to be close
We
to
do!
You see?
I feel it.
Don't do that. I don't like being touched.
I feel it.
I don't
like
think.
twins?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, she's actually really independent on her own when she's in pain. It's just
I have to be.
I'm
because
just
when
I
I'm by
wanna be there
myself,
for you.
when I'm by myself,
that's how I feel. I'm like, nah, I know this pain. I know what you're going through, and I literally hold her like that. And I'm just like, I can hold her and feel the pain too, and I'm just like, it's okay.
Wow.
serious than that.
You know, it's almost like when even Naomi is feeling the pain, Elisha is in it with her. Somehow we felt God allowed Elisha to have sickle cell just so that Naomi will not be on her own. We strongly believe that, you know. We strongly believe that, and it just shows how God has knitted the whole family together in the pain. Naomi being the first one to be diagnosed with it, and everybody else in the family has had to share that pain. The way the kids have been brought up in the house, we're all one. Sickle cell has helped, I believe in some ways, in the bond within the family. Definitely it has helped.